The first thing I'll do with these reading comprehension videos is a commentary. So I'm going to read the text as I would in the exam, and you'll realize that I'm actually not a very fast reader. I read at the speed at which I speak, which is average, really, 250 words per minute, maybe 300 words per minute. So I won't go really fast. And when you hear me reading out loud, understand that that is the speed at which I read during the exam. So unless I stop and I look at the screen and I'm talking to you directly, and so that is going to be the internal dialogue that I have with myself during the exam, I'll just read exam speed. Okay, so let's start with the first text. Scientists long believed that two nerve clusters in the human, okay, it's hypothalamus. If I struggle to read the word of the exam, I'll just skip over it, but I know that that's what it is, called the suprachiasmatic, I think, SCNs, were what controlled our circadian rhythms. So at this point in the test, I'll tell myself, I say, long believed, does that mean they're going to change their mind later? So that is kind of a red flag or a notification in my head that I need to resolve towards the end. Are they going to change their mind? I'm trying to see where is the author going with this. Those rhythms are the biological cycles that recur approximately every 24 hours. Okay, so this is just a definition. They're telling me what those circadian rhythms are. This is a detail. Studies have demonstrated that in some animals, these SCNs control certain bodily functions, so blood pressure, body temperature, activity level, alertness. You know, when I'm reading these words, what I do, I visualize it. For example, I see the blood pressure equipment, the machine that measures your blood pressure. I see a thermometer, activity level, alertness. I visualize it as a picture. And the reason is that recall is extremely valuable on the test. So if I don't visualize a text, I can't really recall much. But if I try to visualize it, I try to paint the picture. And that is something that I'm going to do a lot as I read those texts. So you see how to do it. When I visualize it, it's easier for me to remember where something is in the text. If a question states or mentions a word or an idea that triggers that image in my mind, and because I create a structure of the test, I know where to go look. But if you don't visualize the text as you read it, it's going to be very difficult for you to recall. Okay? So I recall all these things, alertness, temperature, etc. And I note, as far as the structure is concerned now, that this is okay, information. So they started with a long belief, a definition of a technical term related to that belief, some measurements they have done, and then now they say furthermore. So I expect something that extends the idea, supports it, something that definitely does not contradict it. Furthermore, cells in the human retina dedicated to transmitting information about light levels to the SCNs have recently been discovered. So this is evidence that supports the idea that the light controls the so these circadian rhythms are really synchronized with the light cycle. So this is evidence that supports that. And so now, for me, first paragraph 1 is a belief that is held by scientists and some information related to that belief. And the value of the way I phrased those words, if you noticed, I didn't say anything specific to the details of the text. So I said a long belief held by scientists and information that supports it, and some definitions. So that is a phrase, or these are sentences that can describe a lot of texts. And that is going to be valuable if you are reading a text that you really struggle to understand. Even if you don't understand certain details, you can certainly generalize and capture the structure under which the details of the text lie. Okay? Now, in the second paragraph, 4 critical genes governing circadian cycles have been found to be active in every tissue, however, not just the SCNs in mice, in flies, in humans, etc. So the construction of the sentence may be a bit awkward for you to understand. So what they're saying is that they found genes that control the circadian cycles in other tissue, not just the SCNs, in some animals on which they experimented, I assume. In addition, when laboratory rats that usually ate at will were fed only once a day, peak activity. So why are they telling me this? They're saying that, okay, so whereas the same clock gene in the SCNs remains synchronized with the light cycles, so the synchronization changed in those rats, and it sort of coincided with the feeding time. So while scientists do not dispute, so whenever I read those words, while, moreover, however, furthermore, etc., but I kind of pay attention because maybe there's a shift. It signals a shift in the text, or it signals an important point. And certainly it is the case over here because they say while scientists do not dispute. So this is really important. They do not dispute. So this really closes the alert, or the kind of an indicator that I or the bookmark I made in the beginning, long belief is going to be contradicted. Well, it says here, listen, it's not contradicted. However, so scientists do not dispute the role of the SCNs in controlling core functions as regulation of body temperature and pressure. Scientists now believe that circadian clocks in other organs and tissues may respond to external cues other than light, including temperature changes that recur regularly every 24 hours. So paragraph 1, really, if I want to discuss the structure of the text, paragraph 1 introduces a long-standing belief, and the second paragraph tells me how that belief is revised. It does not contradict. The tone of the author is kind of objective. The author agrees, just explaining the information. And the points of view, well, there's the author, there are scientists, and maybe whoever discovered or made the experiments in the second paragraph. So now I sort of captured the whole text. I created that table of contents, and as you will see, it's going to be a lot easier for me to answer the questions. So let's do that right now. So I'll see here that the primary purpose of the passage is to what? Now, thinking strategy, what I do in the exam is, if I cannot readily identify the correct answer, I immediately begin to eliminate answer choices. Now, I sometimes, with primary purpose questions, I try to predict what the primary purpose is, but I don't linger around too much, okay? Do not linger so much in the exam. If you feel like you've been stagnant for a while, it's time to move, okay? You're always moving. So primary purpose, let's say that I struggle to verbalize the words in my mind. I'm just going to read and eliminate. So answer choice A or alpha, I'll go alpha, bravo, Charlie, delta, echo, just so we don't get confused with the wordings. So alpha says, challenge recent findings that appear to contradict earlier findings. Now it's obvious, based on how we read the text, that this is certainly not the case, because there's a long-standing belief that is not challenged, it's just sort of revised, and there's no contradiction to earlier findings. And as you see, I'm trying as much as I can to eliminate using a very specific reason. This is a very valuable skill to develop in verbal. And this is not only reading comprehension, but also critical reasoning and sentence correction. Answer choice bravo, present two sides of an ongoing debate. There is no debate. Charlie, report answers to several questions that have long puzzled researchers. There are no questions that have been puzzling researchers. Answer choice delta, discuss evidence that has caused a long-standing belief to be revised. That is precisely the correct answer. And that is kind of the main point that we've discerned from reading the text. Attempt to explain a commonly misunderstood biological phenomenon. It's not really misunderstood. There's a long-standing belief, and then that belief is revised. So for me, the correct answer choice is answer choice D. Next question, the passage mentions, so this is a detailed question. I need to know where to look in the passage. They mention each of the following as a function regulated by the SCNs in some animals except. Now, this is maybe not the most challenging text, but nevertheless, you would see the value of visualizing that I mentioned. I know that it's somewhere in the first paragraph, somewhere towards maybe the middle, a little bit after the middle, and I'll go back and I'll read again. And I do remember there's activity level, blood pressure, because I mentioned the blood pressure measurement machine, alertness, maybe, I have to go back and think about this. Vision, I don't think it's vision. That's probably the right answer, because what they did is they found something that connects the detection of light to the SCN, but that is not a function. Vision is not a function that is regulated by the SCN. So that is probably the right answer, but I would read all answer choices just to be sure. Temperature, it is actually regulated by the SCNs, because I imagined that thermometer, right? So answer choice that is correct here is D. It does not regulate the vision. However, in the test, in the exam, I'd probably be a little too scared of being this confident. So I'd go back and I'd look at the corresponding part in the text. But as you can see, because I made this good reading and I visualized the text, I can go and I see where I can look. Now, obviously, just keep in mind, I am not this confident and smooth and slick during the exam. There's always this extra level of doubt and uncertainty that exists in the exam, and that is totally fine. Because I have a process that I've rehearsed so many times, I just go through that process, and I'll try to illustrate that as much as I can as I answer that questions. The SCNs are found in other organs and tissues of the body besides the hypothalamus. Well, no, in the second paragraph, they state that other tissue than the SCN, not that the SCN exists in another body part, so alpha is out. The SCNs play a critical but not exclusive role in regulating the circadian rhythms. That's kind of the main point of the text, so that's probably it. But always read every single answer choice and the entirety of the answer choice. Don't read half an answer choice, read the whole answer choice. The SCNs control clock genes in a number of tissues and organs throughout the body. They don't. That is not true. I wouldn't maybe be able to verbalize exactly how I would eliminate this, uh, but I'm pretty sure that it's wrong. They control genes in a number of tissues and organs. Like, no, it's actually, okay, wait a minute. It's in the hypothalamus. In the text is going to be right there, and I'll go back and I'll check because I don't want to make a reckless error. So answer choice delta, the SCNs are a less significant factor in regulating blood pressure than scientists once believed. That is not the point in the text. The point is that the SCNs regulate some functions and other tissues do the same. So delta is out. And nowhere does the text mention that is less significant in regulating blood pressure than scientists once believed. So 100% this is wrong. Answer choice echo, the SCNs are less strongly affected by changes in light levels than they are by other external cues. That is incorrect. And if I may remember correctly, in fact, the only external cue is light with the SCNs. I would probably go back and I'd check. So when they say that they control our circadian rhythms, they're synchronized. So they are the biological cycles that recur approximately every 24 hours in synchronization with the cycle of sunlight and darkness caused by Earth. So in that line 5 and line 6, it states that it's synchronized with light, so that it's not synchronized by something else. And then see how it says in line 12, furthermore, cells in the human retina dedicated to transmitting information about light levels to the SCNs have recently been discovered. So that was the extra evidence that lends support to the idea that the hypothalamus is synchronized with the light. So that is the reading of this first text in the reading comprehension section. And as you can see, it's very important that you do a very good reading of the text. And that is why I said in our first session, reading is the absolute most important skill in the GMAT, even for quant, in my opinion, because how fast you read, process information, and organize it into a structure will determine how well you perform in all sections in the exam, not just reading comprehension. So the takeaways from this text are very good reading for structure. Try to visualize so you'll have good recall of the text, so that if a question asks you and you need to know, you need to go somewhere to find that information. If you visualize, then you're more likely to have an idea where to go look. And the other idea is learn how to eliminate the incorrect answer choices using very explicit reasons. And the last point is, especially with primary purpose questions, if you can think what the answer choice that is correct is in your own words, do that before you read the answer choices. Usually that allows you to eliminate a lot of incorrect answer choices very, very fast. But if that idea doesn't come to you fast, don't linger, keep moving, okay? In this exam, always keep moving.